Hello everyone, Laura from PreQuilt here. So, you might be wondering, what is PreQuilt? Well, it's an online software application that helps you visualize, design, and make your own quilts. And because it's an online software application that runs on a website, all you need is the internet and a browser. We recommend Google Chrome because it seems to be the least buggy of all the browsers. And another great feature of PreQuilt is that there's nothing to download. You can use PreQuilt on desktops, laptops, tablets, and even your cell phone. And while it's hard to design on a cell phone, it is a great resource when you're at the quilt shop and all you need is to remember what fabrics you wanted to buy. PreQuilt works on PCs and Macs, and you can even be logged on multiple devices at the same time. In this video, I'm going to tell you all about the basic PreQuilt plan. The basic plan is perfect for every quilter who wants to be able to design, mock up, and plan their quilt ideas. You can subscribe to the basic plan on a monthly or annual basis. If you're a quilt pattern designer and you'd like to provide your customers with free digital coloring pages, our other subscription level, the Market Plan, might be a good option for you. The Market Plan has all the same features as the basic plan, with the added capability of being able to create digital coloring pages. You can learn more about that plan in our next video. But back to PreQuilt's features. We currently have 3 different grid options available. The most common is the rectangular grid, but we also have the on-point grid with 2 different layout options, as well as the triangular grid that has 4 different layout options. You can create and design custom quilt blocks in the block editor, or the block maker. You can see here I have designed a variation of the classic half square triangle block. And here's an example of using the block maker to recreate or reverse engineer the Hunter Star block. Using the grid lines helps make it much easier to very quickly recreate all the beautiful traditional quilt blocks out there. And you can even use the block maker to create some truly unique custom quilt blocks, like this one here that Gar designed in PreQuilt. It doesn't look like much alone, but when you create alternate versions of this block and mirror them, it creates a really beautiful Art Deco-like pattern. Gar had no idea how the block could be sewn together. He was just having fun making the blocks themselves. But the quilt he designed was so beautiful that I couldn't help but figure out how to FPP it. We called it Deco Hills, and I have a pattern for it in my Etsy shop, and there's a corresponding coloring page for it on PreQuilt. You don't need to make all your quilt blocks from scratch in the block maker. We have about 100 traditional quilt blocks preloaded in PreQuilt that are ready for you to grab and use in your next quilt. Also preloaded into PreQuilt are all the major solid fabric manufacturers' color cards. All of these manufacturers are in PreQuilt, and their color cards look like this. This is Art Gallery Fabrics Pure Solids color card with Susie Quilts' color line at the bottom. We try our best to keep these color cards up to date, but with so much going on in the quilty world, we might miss an update. So please send us an email if you notice something is missing, and we'll happily update it. Also, a disclaimer, we use the hex codes found on the manufacturer's websites to set the colors for the fabrics, and things might look a little bit different on your screen than they do in person. You can also import fabric swatches for your favorite printed or patterned fabric. You can bring printed fabric swatches into your account by either finding them online and saving them to your computer, or taking pictures from your fabric stash and then taking them from your computer and uploading them into PreQuilt. All of your fabrics will then be saved here in the fabric dashboard. We also have some fabric collections preloaded in PreQuilt that are easy to browse through and quickly add to your account. If we do not have the collection you're looking for, please try the fabric manufacturer's website. This is an example of Susie Quilts' latest fabric collection, Slow Summer, from Art Gallery Fabrics. You can add just the fabrics you like or the entire collection. And this is a great feature for being able to preview fabrics before buying them. Here's an example of a really simple sawtooth star quilt that I mocked up using some solid Kona colors and Susie Quilts fabrics. I'm really loving the thin stripe fabric. PreQuilt is really great for being used as a digital design wall. Here you can see some orphan quilt blocks that I photographed and imported into PreQuilt as quote-unquote fabric. This quote-unquote fabric can be any JPEG file, so it can be printed fabric swatches, orphan quilt blocks, quilt tops, and even quilt panels. Once imported and edited, I was able to digitally play with my orphan quilt blocks to find a layout that I liked. First, I tried to use the blocks to make some flying geese, but I was getting really distracted by that secondary pinwheel design that was coming through. So I decided to explore what these blocks would look like as pinwheels, and I wasn't really quite there, so what about adding a little sashing? What about a border? I quickly realized I didn't really like these layout options and went back to the beginning. After playing around with the blocks a little more, I stumbled upon what looked like a heart and carried that design out across the quilt top. This was the final digital design layout that I created in PreQuilt, and this is the finished quilt top. You can see that I didn't follow the design layout to the T, but the visualization was enough for me to confidently move forward and sew these blocks together. So on to what is my all-time favorite PreQuilt feature, the color randomizer. In this example, I've locked down my printed fabric choice for the sawtooth star, but I'm still deciding on what background fabrics I'd like to use. I like this neon yellow and the pink combo, but I'm really curious what else might get this fabric to pop. With the push of a button, I can get PreQuilt to randomly select different color combinations to give us some really outstanding and surprising color combinations. In addition to the color randomizer, we have some block randomization features as well. This quilt was designed using the block randomizer, where I was able to randomly lay out 4 different block variations across the quilt to create a more dynamic hunter star quilt layout. Arguably, one of the most useful features is the fabric calculator. The fabric calculator button, which looks like this icon in the top left corner of the screen, can be found on any quilt that you create yourself. Please note that this is not available in digital coloring pages, since the designer's pattern will have all of that information. Once you click on that button, a separate tab will open with a wealth of information needed for you to make your quilt. The overview page will have images for each of the quilt blocks, as well as the quantity for each and their finished sizes. There will also be yardage requirements for each of your fabrics. But there's so much more. Each quilt block will have a blowout with cut piece labels like C1, C2, etc., which is really helpful to help keep your cut pieces organized. Each block unit is also broken down into the cut pieces that would be needed to create it. In this example, you can see the cut pieces that will sew up into a half square triangle and a square piece for the hunter star block. You can also control your construction method for common block units like half square triangles and flying geese. On the left side, you can see the cutting instructions and quantity needed to make 8 of the half square triangle blocks using the 2 at a time method. We'll need 4 3¼ inch squares of orchard ice and copin. If you'd like to make 8 at a time half square triangles, simply select that option in the drop down, and the fabric calculator will dynamically update how to cut your fabric for that block unit. Now on the right, you'll see that we'll need 1 6½ inch square of each fabric to make 8 half square triangles needed for that one hunter star block. Once you've selected your construction method of choice, you can click on the Fabric tab and view the cutting diagrams for each of your fabrics. You can also change the width of fabric as well, and the cutting diagram will dynamically update to show you the most efficient use of your fabric. You can download all the fabric calculation information as well as download an image of your quilt. Here you can see my version of the Sea Breeze quilt by Initial Case Studio. Since this is a digital coloring page, the only additional information I can download are the fabrics being used in this quilt. And when you print off your quilt in color, it can also become a very excellent quilt map. The printout saved me during the construction process. There were quite a few times that I almost accidentally flipped a half-square triangle block. And if you're still in the work in progress stage, simply pack your color printout with your fabrics and you'll always remember what your intentions were. Last but not least, with the PreQuilt subscription, you can save all your digital coloring page mockups. Some of these quilts are so intricate with so many different fabric links that it's nice to be able to clone and save your version to your account. This is especially great if you're still making up your mind. Alright, I know I've thrown a lot of information at you, but if you're excited and ready to get started, please visit us at PreQuilt.com to subscribe. Thanks, and have a great day. Bye!